All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to break down how I did this render here inside of Blender Octane, from the rendering settings that I use to how I got the Denoiser set up all the way to Davinci Resolve and my post-process routine. Let's get straight into it. Now, before we get into this, there's one thing I got to confess. You know what? I'm tired of making YouTube videos like this. The whole cute little intro hooks and all the things they tell us to do to make these YouTube videos have more, watch time and retainer. You know what, guys? It's taking too long. Like, I spend 3 or 4 days on one video where I rather spend, one day kicking out 3 or 4 different videos to you guys. So what I'm doing is I'm shifting gears here. I'm going to start giving you guys a little bit more of the raw stuff that I basically do in my community. Like, so that's what I love about my community. I can just jump on, record a video. I don't have to be all cutesy with the YouTube stuff and just get straight to the raw value and just give them what I learned. And especially, I'm learning stuff daily. So like, I rather pump out something right when I learn it. Well, that's what I do in my community. Right when I learn it, I throw it out to my community and boom. But on YouTube, it's like, I learn it. Okay, now I got to figure out how am I going to make a YouTube video, thumbnail, title, editing, and all that. And it's just so much going on. Like, it just really consuming a lot of time. So you know what? I'm going to shift gears. I'm giving you guys more of the raw stuff. This is going to be a little bit more raw, not heavy production, just raw value. When I learn something, I want to share it out as quickly as possible while it's fresh on my mind. And I'm going to get away from less of the whole YouTube. And you know what? I don't even care if it doesn't, get views a lot. But if it, there's 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, 8, 10 people who actually vibe with that video, that's my main mission, because this whole trying to meet the YouTube algorithm and all that is just killing my vibe. And that's why I've been posting heavily more in my community than I have been on YouTube, because I can just get the stuff out and boom, there it is. So if you guys are interested, I do have a community, Blender Octane. That's where I'm learning all this stuff from my community. We're all so tight and we're all teaching each other, sharing Blender files and doing all this stuff. And it's helping me learn Blender Octane 4 times faster than I was when I was by myself. That's what I'm gonna start doing, pumping out more content for you guys. It's gonna be a little bit under production and more just raw value, okay? Enough of my ranting, let's get into it. All right, guys, so we're inside the scene file here. Now, again, like I'm running a laptop. I got a GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. It's not a monster machine. It's not even a machine. It's like, it's very underpowered. So I work to my weaknesses. Like, I know I can't crank out this big, massive scene and try to render it and do an animation. So what I do is I do a lot of Instagram Reel style because my machine can handle that and I can manage to get that out. Now, for example, this render here was still taking me about 2 to 3 minutes a frame to render. So it took almost about all night and a little bit more in the half of the day, right? So I render whenever I'm not on my machine. When I'm at work, I'll have it rendering and stuff like that. So literally here is a setup. Again, I'm working on the photo bashing technique where I just take a photo and build the scene off of that. I got this little gotcha asset, which I think I posted in my, yes, it should be on the Gumroad. Yes, this asset is available for free on the Gumroad right here, the gotcha machines. And again, it's kind of like the Ian Hubert photo bashing style. So I've kind of just threw that up in there. So that's what I'm basically working off of, right? I built this quick little scene. Again, another photo that I took on my morning walk at this back wall here. And I just kind of threw that in there. Now my render settings, as far as my render settings go, this is what I've got going here. Here are my max samples. I'm literally running 75 samples. Now, what I do to try to determine how many samples I need, I first start off as low as possible. Like, I will literally go 10 samples, render out a frame, see how noisy it is. And then it's like, okay, if it's kind of like, I think I can get away with it, then I'll do what I call like my 4 or 5 or 10 render frame test. So I'll render out about 10 frames or, as long as I want to wait, or I'll kind of just do it and go do something. And then I'll come back and watch that quick little animation just to see how the noise is moving. Is it like, is a lot of noise? There's a lot of fireflies. And that will give me a good estimate of like, okay, know what? This is too noisy. I'm going to need to crank up some certain samples and stuff like that. So I was running, 75 was the one that I did up here. Now I had a little bit of specular material in this because of the glass that I'm running here on these gotcha machines, this whole plastic portion. Here, let me go ahead and fire up the render for a second. So you can see here, I got a lot of specular material going on here with these 1, 2, 3, these 6 bowls here. So I had to crank up my specular samples a little bit more because when I did do the test render on the frames, it was sparkling a lot only in this area. Pretty much the diffuse areas looked pretty clean, but anywhere I had that plastic material, it was super sparkly and I could see lots of fireflies. So I cranked that up to 16 samples and I had everything else at 8. Then from there, what I pretty much do is I leave everything else pretty much stock here. Ray Espelon was stock, filter size was stock. What else did I end up in? My GI clamp is actually set to 1 million. I just basically set it back to default. Typically I run it at 10, but when I did my test render at 10 samples, I noticed a lot of fireflies were popping up. And then if you do float over the GI clamp, if you float here, it says GI clamp reduces fireflies. And its default is 1 million. And I cranked it down to 10. So I was like, you know what, the heck with it. I just basically went over and hit backspace on it. And then it just changed it back to the 1 million. So I left it at that. And that did significantly reduce the fireflies that I had going. And then from there, everything else was okay. I left all of this stuff stock. I think I actually have my adaptive sampling. I do have it checked, but it's not set up to optimization. Like it's all default. There are videos about adaptive sampling and I have to watch them and break them down. Again, more stuff that I want to share with you guys quicker and sooner. I did a video a long time ago and lost that video because I was behind in the whole YouTube train, right? Color management wise, again, you got to be in RAW for Blender Octane to have to be in the proper color space, right? So other than that, I did use a denoiser. So the way to set the denoiser up is if you come in here, press in, and then I come down my tone mapping. I just use my ACES tone mapping, but I did export out ACES EXRs. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment though. So what I also did was I used my exposure here to get my exposure proper for my scene. And then I had the hot pixel removal. I had that cranked up to 100. Everything else was stock. And then I come down to here to my denoiser. So when you're doing when I did my denoiser, first of all, I had it set to 0. And 0 means basically it's going to be full blend denoised image. I didn't want it to have full blend because when I did that, it was too milky, it was too blurry, it didn't look clean and sharp. So what I ended up doing was coming back to the blend and go 0.3, which is kind of like 30% of the noise image mixed with the denoise. So it was a little bit of mix. And then I had it set on denoise on completion. Everything else was pretty much stock. Now you got to activate this in your passes. If you go to your render passes, here it's going to be set to beauty by default. I come over here and I switch it to denoise. So when it's switched to denoise, it's going to actually show you the denoising in your viewport also. But again, it kind of takes the samples, like the number here after 20 or after 10 samples, in between 10 to 20, it's going to kick on. So whatever, I leave that is. But my main thing was just rendering it out. I just wanted to have my passes. So if I go to my compositing setup here, and if you go to the compositing, now you can see here I have this denoise beauty here. So what I should have did was I was going to just do an output from here, but I wanted to export out the EXR in the ACES color profile, in the ACES color space, right? So what I did was from there, I jump over here and I activate the Octane output. Okay, the Octane output is a little bit different than the standard Blender output. So if you go here, click on your output tab here, you scroll down, you're gonna have output. If you keep scrolling down, you're gonna see this tab like this. It'll be Octane output. It won't be checked by default. So I check that, and means now what I want to do is I want to render. You set your file format where you want it to save, and then down here, file type, I changed it from PNG to EXR, and then here I also go from 16-bit float, and then here I can switch to ACES CG, or I can select any of these other ones. I wanted to keep my ACES color space, so I select the ACES color space. Boom. Now I also chose my DWA lossless for my compression. And that was pretty much it. Once you save it here, it's going to save an Octane version of this file, of this EXR. And unfortunately, it also going to do one in Blender. Blender's also going to do one. But instead of having multiple EXRs pumped out, I just set my Octane Blender, my regular Blender version, to export out a film, a video. So I don't have all these files lined up. So I just got this one little extra video. Plus you get a video that you can use to preview it, which works out really nice. This is going to be the noisy version. This will not be the denoise version. So when I come back down here, this is where I want my denoise version here. And then, you know, you're going to have to pipe out your output and then set this file output, and you'll have it also working there. Once I have my EXRs ready to go, and then I will set my render up, boom, this is what I had here. So I literally have here, you can see it says file name beauty view layer 01, and it's cool. This is it. For some reason it did both of them, which I probably should have selected. There's a way I think I can merge them into one EXR instead of having them both. But just for the sake, it was my first test kind of run doing this Octane output. So you can see here I have two versions. I have my normal one, and then I have my denoise version. Now there is a really cool app that I'm using, program. It's free. It's an open source program. When you're using EXRs, if I just double click on this here, it opens up this program called DJV. Okay, DJV plays EXRs and it plays them really nice. I mean, check this out. So I'm able to preview my EXR files, because you can't do that typically with your standard window viewer player. It won't open up EXRs, but this allows me to open up EXRs, and you can see this version here is the beauty pass, not denoise. So you can clearly see I kept pushing the level to find out how much I was going to accept. So when I saw this, I was like, you know what? This is okay. Now I'm going to use the denoiser. I'm going to turn the denoiser on. So I kept doing test renders till I got to this level. Okay, everything's still kind of sparkly. Now I'm going to turn on the denoiser. And now I can show you the denoise pass. So if I scroll down here on my list and scroll all the way down, boom, since I activated that denoise pass, now you can see here, file name, denoise beauty, view layer 1. Oh, listen, that's what I want here. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that. Okay, so now we're seeing the fully denoise version, and it's a lot more cleaner than the other version. Again, a little bit milky, a little bit blurry, but it's okay because I already knew I was gonna go for this old school film look. So I didn't want it to be like this crystal clean, render, because I'm already gonna dirty it up anyways with Denhancer. And again, I'm going for an old retro Kodak V500 or V50 type look. Okay, so that already kind of worked towards my favorite here. You're seeing it in linear right now. That's why the blacks look super black and the whites look super white. It is in linear space. There are options inside of this program where you can go ahead and change it and apply it, but I don't really care about that. I just wanted to see what it's going to look like and just give me a preview, because when I take this into Davinci Resolve, I'm going to flip all the color space and all that stuff over, okay? All right, so we're inside of Davinci Resolve. I'm going to just show you guys my whole process again. I'm just going to quickly do it. Not quickly, but I'm just going to do it here for those who want to follow along. Again, this is what I do in my community. I just go raw, and I was going to quickly just do a summarize for you guys, but I was like, you know what, the hell with that. I don't even want to do that. We're just going to go full raw. We're going to do it right now. I'm going to set it up for you guys. So grab a cup of coffee and let's get to it. So I'm going to go ahead and import my thing. I'm using Davinci Resolve 18.6. I'm using the free version. I'm not using the paid version. And what I'm going to do is jump into the media tab. I'm going to scroll to my hard drive where I had those files saved, and immediately you're going to see here are my files. Now, if you do use a Davinci, yours might look more like something like this. You can clearly see here all the files here are individual, like it's not showing them as a sequence. And even if you grab them and bring them all in, it's going to bring them all individually. What you need to do is click on these three dots here, and we go to frame display mode. From individual files, we want it to be a sequence. And then after that, now here is our sequence. Here is what we had before. Here is the denoise beauty pass right there. And then here is the full noise pass here. So obviously we want to work with the denoise version here. Again, we're in EXR linear color space here. I'm going to drag that down. Then what I'm going to do is right click on that. And I'm going to say create new timeline using this clip. Hit OK. All right, jump over to the timeline tab. And here we are. And again, right now, it's still doing it in HD. So I'm actually going to go over to the quick edit tab here, to the cut tab. I'm going to scroll over here and click this little button, and I'm going to go to 1920 by 1080. Boom. And that's just going to tighten that down there. And boom, now we're just working what we're working with here. Okay. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to go over into the Fusion tab. Now, this is where we do all our compositing. Again, I prefer to do node-based compositing. That's what they do in Nuke, and that's kind of what I've kind of tried to mimic here. So we got two shades here. I want to go ahead and open up just to one here. We don't need two. Click this button. Here it is. And then what I'm going to do is hit this little arrow, and then I'm going to go to fit. So it's going to fit it all. So the first thing first, what we need to do is our color space. And what I'm going to do is hold down Control, zoom out. I'm going to kind of do this going up and down because it just works better for me. And again, when I used to try to learn Nuke, this is how everybody pretty much operates. Here is my video up here, or my source. So my video reels, I'm going to go ahead and press Fusion F2, and I'm just going to call this the video. I'm going to go vid, and then this bottom one is our output here. So the first thing you do, I need to change my color space. So I'm going to go here, press Shift space bar, and I'm going to go color. and we're gonna look for color space transfer. And I'm gonna take that, hit OK, add. Click on it, hold down shift. When you hold down shift, you're gonna see this little line turn color. That means release. Now it's connected, okay? So what I wanna do is I wanna tell this, hey, this is linear. This is in linear color space. That's why the colors are all wrong. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come over here and it's like, all right, here it is, linear, and I want it to be output to sRGB or Rec 709. I'm just gonna go Rec 709. Boom, there it is. Now it's correct and everything is okay to go, okay? So from here, the reason why we use EXRs is we have so much more control of our colors and our highlights. If I quickly jump over to the tab, to the color tab here, and I'm just gonna show you how much more room I have. If I come in here and just grab, let's say the lift, which is the bottom, and pull that down, look how much I can pull down before it really starts to look ugly. I mean, I can go off the scope here, right? And vice versa here, if I go up, look how much I can really push that. That is the benefit of EXRs. It just holds so much more data for the pixels to be moved and pushed around, okay? So especially when you, like a lot of people do compositing work, VFX, that's why we save in EXRs, because it just gives us a lot of room to adjust and make adjustments here. I'm gonna set that back. I'm gonna jump over to the Fusion tab. So what I want to do is I want to kind of just grunge this up here again. Like I said, before I shot this, or before I shot it, well, that's what I kind of thought about. It's like, okay, I'm shooting this with the camera. I'm using an old camera. I want an old 80s vibe, you know, film grunge look. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to go to effects here, and then I'm going to go to templates. I'm going to click on this template tab, and then I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to go to CHO, where is it? Oh, there it is here. This chromic aberration. I'm going to grab that, drag that into my thing here, and then I'm going to tab this off so I don't have to worry about seeing that. I'm going to grab it, hover over it, hold shift. There it turns color. Now it's locked in. Okay, make sure you check those and they're locked in, because sometimes it looks like they're connected, but they're not. So there's my chromic aberration, and you can already see what's that's doing down here. Check this out. Look right there. It's kind of adding that here. If we crank it up, there it is. If you go negative, it goes in, right? So again, we just want to be subtle with this. We're not trying, the chromic aberration is not the star of the show. It's the gotcha machines, right? But we just want to kind of dirty that up just a little bit, right? I'm just going to go something like that. And let's go ahead and, what's the shortcut for this? I think it's Control F to bring me back. I'm not sure. Looks like, you know what? Let's go a little bit more. I'm just going to put my mouse in here and drag ever so slightly, something like that. Okay, it's very subtle, but you can see it. It's very noticeable here at the bottom. So next, what I want to do is, you know what? There is a lot of glow, because I already added a lot of glow from Octane, which I probably should have waited and not did the glow so I can do it post. And that would have also saved me on render time, but I had forgot about it and it wasn't thinking. So what I'm going to do is still here. I'm going to add just a touch of glow, because I'm going to show you why, what we're going to do later. So I'm going to go here, shift, space bar. I'm going to go glow, and we're going to take this guy here, add it in, and again, click, drag, hold down shift, release. And there's my glow kicking, right? Full on. And you know what? This is the wrong glow. I don't want to use this glow. Backspace. Let's come in here. We got a couple of different types of glows here inside of Davinci. I want this one here, this GLOW. We want this glow here, glow. That's the glow I want, okay? Because here, this one right here has the shine threshold. So I'm gonna take that, drag it on, connect it, boom, boom. It is connected, good. And there it is. What I'm gonna do is take this shine threshold and just crank it all the way. See, you can go like that. I'm gonna crank it all the way to the right here. And here's our spread, how much we want it to spread or just be focused on the highlighted areas. I'm gonna kind of condense it down a little bit to like something like that. And then you come to gain. Gain is gonna control how much of it, how bright it is. And I'm gonna have it very subtle, because we already have a lot of glow going on, bloom from the from Octane, okay? And already to me, it looks a little bit too much, but I'm gonna show you why I want that. So now that we have that glow, what we're going to add the next is add in some lens grunge, right? Like some lens dirt. So I went on the interweb, found this really cool image here. Let me go ahead and jump into where that's at. And this is the file here that I'm gonna be using. I literally just typed in lens dirt and I found this one. It was a free file. The reason why I liked it is because also on the edge here, you can see it's kind of distorted. We got some lens distortion, and here it's kind of spreading out here. It's just a really good, dirty, grungy lens dirt, right? So I want to take this file. Let's jump back over to our Fusion tab, and then you press here, Media Pool, and I'm going to drag that in here like that, okay? And what I'm going to do is quickly, I'm going to name this here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this tail and I'm going to connect it right here to the glow. And that's going to add a merge node. And there's our merge node, which is going to mix these. Now what I want to do is size this. Click on my merge node. And I'm just going to go ahead and zoom it out. And now I need to rotate it. So I'm going to go to angle, 90 degrees. There we go. And let's go back to sizing it. I'm going to size it down. Okay, there it is. It's clipping in. And let's bring it right there. Okay, boom. Now, since, you know, we're working in linear right now with our EXRs and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is change this to linear also. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add in this color space transform. I'm going to literally copy it and paste it, hold shift, drag it into the loop. There it is. But I'm going to change it. I want to change it, reverse it. I want this to be sRGB to linear. Okay. So now it's kind of like in our pipeline, our linear pipeline, okay, that we're working with here. So from here, now that we got that going, I want to mix this with my composite setup that here. So let's go to the merge node. On the merge node, I'm going to take this and put it to screen. Okay, boom, now it's on top of there. But you can see it's clearly way too strong and way noticeable. Again, the lens dirt is not the star of the show. It's the gotcha machines. This is just the supporting actor. So what we're going to do is we're going to blend that in. And this is a cool little tip that I found on the interweb from Cinematic Cookie. Check out his YouTube page. He's got some really cool stuff he does with Blender. He doesn't do it with Octane, but just standard Blender. But he also uses Davinci Resolve for compositing, and this helped me out a lot too. It gave me some really cool tips and tricks. So I'm going to share one with you guys now. The way that we can blend this in better, what we're going to do is come in here. We're going to add in a Luma Keyer. Okay, we're going to do Luma Keyer, and I think it's the top one. I might be wrong. Let's find out again. And I don't want it to be in the loop right there. I'm going to hold down shift and drag it out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it over here, and I want to take this glow source. If I drag this over here, this is our glow source. This is what the glow's seeing. And I'm going to pipe that glow into my Luma Keyer. Now I'm going to take my Luma Keyer and I'm going to drag it over here so we can see it in the viewport. This is what the Luma Keyer is seeing. We want to just key out just to the highlight. So I'm going to grab up here and I'm going to crank this down just till we have the highlights being shown, like right about there. Okay. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to blur this. I need to blur this. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Luma Keyer, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on this blur node, and this is going to add a blur node in. Now, if we drag that blur over here, this is what we're going to see. Now, I come to my blur size, I'm going to blur it out, something like that, so it's all blurry. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this blur, and we're going to put it in the mask of that right here. So now if I come down to the bottom and drag this in the viewport, now this is what we're seeing. This mask, this blur mask is basically controlling our lens dirt, and what you can, it's not very noticeable right now. So again, what we can do to make it more noticeable, if I come over here and just move these guys here, if we grab this color corrector, we drop this color corrector right there, and if we crank up the gain on the color corrector, now you can see our noise. You can see the camera dirt right here, especially right here. It's very noticeable. Check it out. It's very noticeable there. But what's nice is this is only reacting to the highlights, to the blown out highlights. So you notice we don't see it up here. We only see it where the highlights are really overexposed and really blown out, especially down here on the bottom again. Look at this. Look at this. We're getting all that goodness. And that's all being reactive based on the video. Because the video, if we come to the blur, this is moving. This is moving, right? The highlights are moving. Now, it's not a lot of movement in this shot, but if this had more movement, the highlights are only, the lens dirt is only going to be seen in these areas and as they move around. Really cool trick, really cool trick. All right, so that's our lens dirt right there. So we're pretty much good to go here. We've got some glow, we've got some lens dirt. I'm actually gonna go back to my color correct and back that down. It's way too much. I don't want it to be that noticeable. Again, it's a supporting actor of the show. It's not the full thing, right? Okay, so boom, there's our lens dirt, that's happening. So from here on, this is where you can basically add in some film grain, but I'm going to do a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and use my Denhancer plugin because I've been a member of Denhancer for a very long time. They supported me back in the day on my other YouTube channel where it was all about mobile filmmaking. So I'm going to jump into the color tab, and this is where we'll just do a little bit of color grading here. Now, to me, the highlights are a little bit hot and a little bit blown out, right? So what I'm going to do here on this tab, I'm going to go ahead and bring down my highlights just a little bit here. Kind of bring them back, bring them down a little bit. something like that. I'm also going to bring my lift and bring that down just a little bit, something like that. Then I'm going to press Alt S, add in another node. And on this node here, I'm going to add my Denhancer plugin. I'm going to go over here, type in Denhance. And this is basically a film emulator. It emulates old film stocks, like one of the best plugins on the market for getting that old filmic look. And what I want to do here, I'm going to choose my film stock. I think I'm going to go down to right here. This one here is kind of one of my favorites. And actually, just change it up a little bit. Actually, I'm just going to stick with my Kodak Vision 350D 50 daylight. And again, I can do a little bit of push and pull. And this thing treats it more like it would original film stock, like as far as what it does to the colors and stuff like that. It's a very impressive app here. So what I'm going to do is just make a quick little bit of color change. Again, to me, it's getting a little bit too washed out here. So I'm going to scroll down to my color density. I'm going to crank my color density up a little bit. And then even here on my tonal contrast, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more contrast in here using this, because it handles contrast a little bit different than if I was just a straight pop it out of using Davinci down here, which I will in a minute here. I like that where that's at. And then again, I'm going to use film grain. I'm going to go here with I'm going old school grainy. I'm going to go 16 millimeter ISO at 250. And then what I'm also going to do is turn on some halation, and I'm going to use 35 millimeter. Actually, we'll keep it 16 millimeter halation there. And on my halation, I don't want it to be that predominant. I can go ahead and do a mask. And you can see there's my halation. I'm going to back it off a little bit here. I'm going to come into my source and just bring down the impact. I want it to be very subtle, and then pop out of that. Okay, I like where that's at. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out here. Just again, it's very subtle. It's not the star of the show. Film damage, I'm gonna turn on some film damage. I'm gonna use 35 millimeter film damage. And then the other ones I probably won't use. Film breath, gate weave. I do want a little bit of vignetting, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn the vignette on. And then I take the feather off, and then just kind of size it up so we can see where it's at. There it is. I can see it right there in the middle. A little bit bigger. Maybe something like that. And then it's just going to be very subtle, and then go ahead and do full feather on that. And that's pretty much it for my Denhancer plugin. And then I'm going to press Alt S one more time here. And on this one here, I'm going to add a little bit of compression. I mean, a little bit of contrast here. Just stretch this thing out here a little bit. Stretch it out like that. And then I'm actually going to jump into my HDR tags here, sliders. And I'm going to control just the highlights. This allows me just to isolate it. Like, here's only the highlights. It's not affecting the lows or the mids. And it is a mids a little bit, but I'm just going to take this and hang on. Let me set it back to the beginning. And I just want to take a little bit of bite off of those highlights here. Just a little bit of bite off of those highlights there. Something like that. Boom. That's pretty much it right there that I'm going to do. Again, just grunging it up, going for that old school dirty look. The highlights are a little bit blown out. I think the glare is a little bit, the glow is a little bit too hot. But, you know, it's all trial and error. Again, I would just repeat this process again with a different render, learn from the next one. Do not export the render from Octane with the bloom on it. Do it here in post because it's easier and it's quicker to set up, okay? So then we'll go ahead and just render this out, and let's take a look at our results. So I'm going to jump over to the render tab, and on my render settings, I have this preset here called Reels, which it just sets up the format already, and pretty much 1080 by 1920. 30 FPS. I probably could have switched it to 24 FPS, but I forgot there. Once I'm ready, go ahead and put add render to queue and then render all. Boom, there's our final results, guys. So, you know, I think it's pretty cool. I think again, the bloom from Octane was a little too much. I probably should have brought that down. And again, this is how you learn by failing. If I didn't do this the first time, I've been like, okay, you know what? Yeah, that looks great. But now I know I'm learning from my mistakes. No, on my next render, easy on the bloom. Actually, don't even use bloom inside of Octane. Just go ahead and use it post inside of Davinci Resolve. You know, it depends on situations, but I know I need to bring that back. Another thing that I probably would say I can also learn from this is that I shouldn't really have to do too much effects in the render. Wait for it to bring it into Davinci and do it comp. It's just way more quicker. It's super more quicker. Like, I normally would also use Octane's chromic aberration and also render that in, so that, you know, this time I didn't do that, and I brought the chromic aberration in post, and which gives me more control. So I really like that this whole workflow. So hope you guys enjoyed this style of video. Again, trying to go more raw. This is how I do it in my community, and you know what, I just wanted to start doing it here on the YouTube channel because I want to start posting more stuff out there for people who are not in the community, at least you guys can get a little bit of a feel of what I do here. And again, I'm just learning Blender Octane. I'm not this guru, but I found out it's easier to learn stuff when you have more people working on the same problem than just you, right? We deal with problems on Blender. How the heck do I do that? I don't know. There's not a lot of videos out there for Blender Octane. So that's why I'm trying to share the knowledge. I don't get everything correct the first time or many times, but that's how I learn. That's how we all learn. You got to fail to learn. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you're interested in the community, links down below. Catch you guys in the next video. Peace.